All right, guys, what's up? Well, we have another build here, and it's very exciting. Not that any other build is not exciting to me, but where to start on this? I mean, you can kind of see all the parts here, but we'll go over them real quick just to give you an idea, and then we'll get started on this. But we have a case here that my fiance actually picked out herself in Micro Center when we were there about a month and a half ago, roughly. But this is the NZXT H9 Flow, and obviously it's in white, so she wants that. It is a dual chamber case, which means it's just a little deeper. Allows for really good cable management in the back, but it is deeper. But she really likes the case, so yeah, we're gonna hook her up with a bunch of RGB stuff here. We have the Z790 LiveMixer by ASrock, and I do not have a 13th or 14th gen CPU to pair it with, but we do have a 12700K. As far as our NVMe that we're gonna put in, we're only gonna be putting in one. As of right now, it's a 2 terabyte Western Digital Black 850X, and we have some purple by Asian Horse extension cables, and that's going to pair with our, we could have had white cables coming out of it. I figured maybe we'll put some purple in it to tie it all in. Maybe we'll leave it white, we'll see. But I do have my cables here, but the problem with these cables is I don't think they're going to look as nice as the extension cable. So we'll determine that when we come up to it. We do, of course, have our white power supply. This is by ASUS. It's an 850 watt. We are not putting a graphics card in this as of now. They're just very, very expensive. This is kind of a large case to not have a graphics card. I understand that, but graphics cards are expensive for what she's doing. She does not need one. So in the future, we may look at getting her something. The 5000 series graphics cards are coming out shortly from NVIDIA, so we'll look at that in the future. Anyway, we have the Corsair. This is all going to be Corsair set up, so we can just have one piece of RGB software and we don't have to deal with anything else. And the H150i, I can never remember, the Elite LCD XT, that is for our 360 millimeter rad. We have an additional 7 fans here that are the exact same fans that come on this, so they all match. And we don't have any problems with that. Our rad's gonna go up on top. We're gonna put 3 more fans. We're gonna take out the stock fans on this. We're gonna put 3 fans going down the back on the side for intake, and 3 along the bottom for intake, and it's all going to get an exhaust through the top and exhaust from the back. We have 32 gigabytes of DDR5, and this is only 5600. We're not even going to be turning XMP on, so I really don't care. Let's make some room here and get this thing started. I don't think I'm going to be keeping this piece of cardboard anymore because it's just not as nice as any of the other boxes. I did do an overview of this motherboard in case you're curious. You can go ahead and check that out somewhere down below. I don't know if I'm going to remember to put that link in, but go ahead and search for it. Here's the motherboard, by the way, in case you've never seen one. And just a really nice looking, and that's one of our favorite colors. If not, it is our favorite color, purple. So I thought this would go really well with her. Now, this does not come with Wi-Fi, so I am going to have to put in a Wi-Fi card, and I do have one, but just note that that's just something that you need to do when it comes down to this. So it does have a Wi-Fi M.2 slot. We're going to have to route the wires and put in some antennas right here. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking at something like this. But it does have Ethernet on it, and it's a 2.5 gigabit port. Now, with the CPUs, we do have notches. You can see a notch right there, and you can see a notch right there, and of course, corresponding ones on the other side, and they are offset from the center, so they're not perfect. So this can only go in one direction, and that's how we put that in. And with these 11 or 1700 sockets, these you have to pop off manually, so we just grab it and pull it off like this. Lay this down, and it does create a lot of tension to put that on, just in case you're wondering. Do not lose this in case you need to send your motherboard back for any reason. You are required to put this back on, or it might get rejected, probably will get rejected, and your board will not get fixed. Plus, you have a higher risk of damaging all the pins that are under here. All right, we got our big heat sink here. I already removed the screws. We're just going to lift this off, and we can see we still have the thermo pad has still got the the tape on it. I'm just going to go ahead and peel that off right now. And then we're going to lay that down so it's upside down. And right here we have one and we have two spots we can put an NVMe. Just depends on what you want. So one of them is 5.0, one of them is 4.0. I actually do not know which one it is. I'm going to take a wild guess because it says right over here. So it says PCI Gen 5. So I'm assuming that this one over here is Gen 5, this one over here is Gen 4. Now it does not say anywhere over here that it's Gen 4, but that's what I'm going to assume, so we're going to put it in this one. I do need to move this standoff from here and put it over in this area, so you can always, if you're unsure where to put it, you can set this kind of in here and see where it's going to land. So we need to put it in this one way over here. All right, got my iFixit kit here, and we have found the correct size, which I will say it is a 5mm is what you need for this. Let's go ahead and take this out and pick this up. We're going to place it right in here in this one, and then go ahead and tighten this down. This can be fairly snug. Just don't over torque it. It's still going into the motherboard. We're going to take our NVMe here and place it right in there like that. We're going to take our provided screw that came in the box and put this right in here. And that just needs to be snug. Do not over torque that screw. We can go ahead and place our M.2 heatsink back on. Make sure you remove that tape that was on it. And there's no real easy way to do this. There's not really a notch or anything. You kind of just have to fiddle with it and get it lined up. And make sure the screws go back in, which that is way off. Sometimes it helps to hold it up in the air and then look underneath it. This does not need to be critically tight either, just snug. Now, these only go one direction, so you have to line up this notch with a notch that's in here. And it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if there you go. You can see that notch right in the center there. And basically, we want the second one and the closest one to you. And we're just going to place these in here like so. One side, the other side. And we're going to go right here. Also, if you're unsure, a lot of times on newer motherboards, it will tell you what position to put these in. And you can see right here, it's hard for me to read it on the camera, but you can see the two positions that it is actually pointing to. Those are the first ones you should occupy. All right, so I think we're ready to install the motherboard into the case. Now we have a very large cutout in the back of the case, so I'm not worried about putting the back plate on the motherboard for the pump, for the AIO or the radiator. So that is all set. It looks like our standoffs are all in the correct place. We just got to take off this front panel, glass panel, and get that all set. We also have to remove those fans, so we have a lot of work to do, and I'm going to keep this video as short as possible because I know you're just going to get bored. This thing comes out. What we're going to do is another peel, so join me. I did say we have to add Wi-Fi to this, so I need to do that before I forget. I have a couple of different options here. Either we can use this provided one because it spaces these out. You see how the spacing on these are very, very close? This gives you a much larger spacing because when you put this Wi-Fi in there, these antennas are very, very close to each other when it comes to this. And I think it'll just be easier if we either add this. I can either add a Wi-Fi card to it, actually. Or we can just do the M.2 because this is Wi-Fi 7. So I think we're going to stick with this because it's Wi-Fi 7. So I think we're going to use this instead, which ultimately means I don't need to put this on just right now, because otherwise I got to run the wires up through here, and then they would have to come out here, and I don't know. If it comes down to it, I'll put them in there, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to use the PCIe Express slot for that piece. So I will add this in a little later. Okay, now that I have the box of accessories, and because we're going to need the motherboard screws, now let's set the motherboard back in. Yeah, this is going to look really good in here. All right, let's start putting the motherboard screws in. Remember, when you're putting these in, don't tighten them down until you get them all started, because you may have to loosen them back up to shift it a little bit. You know, one spot that you just overlooked, you never know. So just a really good tip is just to hold off on tightening them all until it's done. Look how good that's going to look. That is going to look so nice. All right, so I'm going to start getting these fans out of here and get these out. This is where you should use an electric screwdriver. And this one by Fantic, best one. This one is pretty close to the Hoto one too that I have. And I've done reviews on these a couple of times. So get yourself one of these, especially for the holidays. These things are so nice. The only thing I wish I had is a longer extension. They cheapened out with their fans too. They only give you a 3-pin instead of a 4-pin. So it's voltage control, but it's not PWM. All right, well, I might as well get the new fans installed since I had to take the old fans out anyway. And this whole bracket comes out for the rear. And we're gonna get the new fans installed into here. So let me just get these out. Now with this box and the other box, the kit of 3, they always come with a controller. That's the only way you can get the controllers. I honestly have like 4 extras of these. It's almost ridiculous. They also come with new screws, and these screws are particular to these, so we are going to use the new ones, and I'm going to just put these away for a rainy day. The only thing I wish that these controllers did have is, instead of the 3M tape, give the other option of putting a magnet. Just a nice strong magnet, because that way you can move this around if you have to, because you have to be pretty confident in where you're putting this, because it's like semi-permanent, because take that back off, it takes quite a bit of force. All right, so now you have to be careful. What's the orientation? So it went in like this. This is going to be what you're going to see. So that means we need it as an intake. What we want to see is this going just like that, and that's the way it's going to look. And now the second obstacle is we need to know where our wires are going. So if it went in like this, that was top, that's the bottom. And we're going to see it like this. So all of our cables have to be going into the case. So they all have to be oriented just like that. The other reason why I'm using these, I was just thinking about it, is because these have rubber inserts, and these screws are actually physically longer. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but you can see right there. They're probably 1/8 inch longer. And that's so they can properly grab a hold of how deep it needs to go. I just put the fan in backwards. All right, there we go. Our fans are installed for right there. Let's go ahead and also put the single fan in the rear. Might as well just get all our fans in order here. Let's go ahead and install the other 3 fans down here at the bottom. All right, all those fans are now installed, and it's starting to look like something. That looks pretty sharp. Yeah, I do kind of wish these were all reverse fans, but one, wasn't thinking about it, and 2, I don't know if they made them in this style. So all of our fans are installed, except for the radiator, which we could either do that or we can install the power supply. I'm kind of thinking the power supply, because that way we can get our EPS power to the CPU. So let's get that. We are going to need just one SATA connection for power for these. So we have our 24, we have our CPU, and we have our, well, this does have a Molex in it, which I don't care to have a Molex. So this one gives us 4. And yeah, we'll just go with this because it gives us 4. So everything else can go back in the bag. The power cable can come out when I need it. We have no graphics card, so it's just going to stay in the bag. But we do have our screws in here for the power supply. So we'll grab those. Very nice and open in the back. I'm not even going to be concerned about putting those in yet, but I do want to get this case turned so you can see where the power supply goes. Okay, so our power supply is going to grab, it's got a big filter on the back here, so this is how we're going to put it, but we do have to put the AIO in first. Just realize that, so we're going to take care of that first. Let's get the accessories that we need out of here. The fans almost looked a little different. Got kind of nervous. Now we need to choose what direction we want this going in. And I'm trying to think, do we want it coming like this? To where we have basically the pump itself would come like that. And I think that's the direction we're going to go in, because if I have it like this, right, then our pump is going to have to do one of these jobs, which isn't so bad either, to be honest. Okay, I think I made up my mind. I think we're going to put the hoses coming off from in front here and going over. So that means that this is going to be in this orientation, and the fans are going to be on the bottom pushing air out. That's just how we're going to do it. So we need the screws. We need the long screws. Oh, this comes with so many things. So these long screws will go through here into the radiator, and since we want to push it out, we're going to be seeing this part so it brings air out. And the other thing is we need to orient this so these cables are coming out the back. So it's kind of hard to get these all out of the way. So this is going to be the back, and we want them coming out just like this. Okay, our fans are installed, and that looks pretty good. We're going to take this cover off. This does have pre-applied thermal compound, which we will be using. I'm not going to bother trying to put new thermal compound on. We're not overclocking. I'm not too worried about it. This top needs to come off so we can access this top right here. Now I could choose to take this off, and we could do that. So it goes like this, which means this comes up just like this. And we do have a little bit of play back and forth, so it's not going to matter too much going this way. But we just need the short screws with the washers. Okay, so I have them all in there, but they are loose. We're going to place this back up there, and we have to drop it down and through. And let's see. And I think I might even have to feed these cables through here prior, which kind of sucks. All right, let's drop this down in. we go. And now, if this needs to go forward or backwards, depending on where it falls, we can accommodate, but it doesn't look like it matters too much. So we're just going to kind of center it in between those positions and tighten it down. Radiator is installed, and now we have to worry about this pump. We have to figure out how we want it to, whoops, I guess we can take that off for now. Got to be careful, and that was my fault, but we just got to make sure that this is going to look and act the way we want it. And because these pump, there we go. I was trying to get that to rotate, but we want it coming off just like that is how I'm going to want it. These have positions in them, so these can slide, and usually it's the outer portion, I think, for the 1700, and then it has a 3M adhesive part right here that we just need to pull the little sticky part off. This just helps you, so in case you need to go like this and you can't have another hand back there, this is just all that's for. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter. But you go around the back, there is 4 holes here. I'm just going around the back, and usually these are pretty square. Sometimes they'll have little cutouts for the bolts that are in the back, or not the bolts, but the there's screws right here, right? And sometimes these have cutouts for those, so just be aware of that. Okay, it looks like it's not the outer position, it looks like more the inner position. But once you get it lined up, push on the back with that 3M adhesive part, and it should stay there for you, and then it'll draw in when we put these other parts on. We are going to need these guys. These are standoffs. And what we can see here is that both the sides are the exact same length. It does appear. Maybe one side's a little bit longer. Hang on a second. The same. So it doesn't matter which direction we put these in. Sometimes it does, so you just got to be careful of that. There's no washers that we have to put on first. These just go in here. They thread in. And this is where you put a hand around the back and you push on it just to give it assistance so you don't push it out. Now we are going to tighten these down, but I just want to get them all started. These ones, you don't need to super torque them, but just get them fairly snug, because you could potentially crush the motherboard if, in some circumstances where it's either a thicker motherboard or the manufacturer for the I/O back support isn't quite, to the tolerance where it should be. Now, IQ should be pretty good, but the part that you need to worry about getting real tight is these guys. That's the part where you really want to snug it down. We're going to take off this protective cover, and we're going to go ahead and install this just like so. This is where you need a couple of hands. So you kind of need to, hold it, sort of, with one hand. This is where you should lay it down. And then take your standoffs that are like thumb screws that came in the kit. And don't thread it all the way because you want this going down even. Do the opposite corner. And again, I just want to show these. These are just thumb screws. It's got the threaded portion on that. It's got a Phillips on the top, which is what you're going to use. But to start them, you just use your fingers. And then you take a normal screwdriver, not an electric one, and we start driving these down. I just realized I put those on the bottom. Oh, I need to rotate this whole thing now. Since I already ruined it, I'm going to put my own thermal compound on it. All right, now I got my own thermal compound on it. Let's put this on the correct way, shall we? Okay, so I have the new orientation now. And now what we can do is just slowly do like 1 or 2 turns, something like that, 1 or 2 turns, and just keep going back and forth until these bottom out. All right, so we can put this on. We do have to route these cables. This is the most ugly part about the front of these, and I really wish I could have gone with the iQ Link setup, but it was a lot more money. So yep, didn't want to do that. Plus I got a really good deal on these fans. They were more than half off on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. There. Now the only concern I do have with this is the fan grabbing any one of these cables. So I think what we're going to do is go directly over it just like that. And then we're going to zip tie this to there. And that's just the way it's going to have to look. I'm sorry that you can't really see that too well. Let me tip this up. So if I go off to the side, it really puts strain on this whole thing, so I don't want to do that. So we're just going to go straight up. I'm not going to be too concerned about it. This is not a showboat PC, but it is for her. I'm trying to make it the best I can without cutting too many corners. Or any corners. Shh. No corners. We're not cutting any corners here. Okay, so now since that's installed, now we can get to the power supply. And we want the fan facing out. Let's get that. There is a cage right down here for a 3.5 inch, and you could put one 2.5 SSD right here if you really wanted to. But yeah, I think we're just going to leave the cage in there. It's not really bothering me or anybody. Typically, I don't fasten these all the way down until I get them all in, but I can see that all the holes are lined up. So I'm very confident that that was all going to work out perfectly fine. And then we can also put whatever cables we do need for the motherboard. So of course we have our 24 pin. So one of the good news is that we do not need a second one of the smaller ones, because the main hub actually comes with 6 RGB connectors, also 6 fans, but I do not have actually it comes with 6 fans, so actually we can use splitters, and we'll use splitters for the fans, so we can connect all the fans together. There's going to be no problem with doing that. Going to this hub, it should be able to support it, no problem. I think I have it all set just to test. And our power is off. We do have an HDMI connection here. Let's do the peel off of that. And we have our CPU power. We have our motherboard power. We have, this is a splitter for USB 2.0 because we have 3 things that it has to go to. So we're using both ports, but one has a splitter. So one of them is this. The other one is the control box for the fans and the RGB. And the other one is just the RGB. So lots going on here. Yeah, with 7 fans. Or actually, no, 7 fans. We have 10 fans. So, yeah. But it looks pretty good. Big wire mess back here. This is just a test, and then I can shut down the camera for a while because I have a lot of cable management to do. I have OBS opened up here, so let's do a power on. Okay, so far nothing. And oh, the power button, I guess I can, there we go. All the fans did light up at first, but this one and these 3 are not lit up anymore. Just these, okay, they just came on. All the fans are spinning. LCD pump's working, RAM RGB is working. Now we're just waiting to see if we get a post. And I'm hoping my OBS is set up correctly where it will post it. If not, no big deal. I'll figure it out if it's not posted. There we go. So this is looking pretty good right now. And that's it. And I am going to check to make sure there's no other BIOS updates before I get going here. And if not, actually, you know what, I'll leave that for now. Maybe we'll do a BIOS update when we get all set and this is all cable managed and ready to rock and roll and install Windows. So, excellent. Now I'm at a point where I can kind of show you what's going on here. I believe we got all our cable management done. It took me about an hour and a half, roughly. And here's the results. There is a couple spots I'm not proud of, but that's it. It's a lot of cables. And quite frankly, I really wish I would have went with the Corsair iQ Link. Would have been a lot more, or a lot less cables. But I had this out of my way. This actually just pops out and I'm able to, you know, get everything situated. I'm not happy about that bundle, but we got a, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 fan splitters, and those are needed because otherwise I would have to have something else, another fan hub or something. So this is going to get covered. You can actually put more SSDs, 2.5-inch SSDs right on this if you really wanted to. But yeah, I think we're all set there. And I have to put on the Wi-Fi now and get that situated. And one other thing I did want to point out is that's where I put the hubs back here. So I did take out the 3.5-inch bay holder, which the other part that I'm not happy about is it does leave these holes here. Not much I can do about that. So, this is what it is. Let's move forward. Let's put in the M.2. So, here's our M.2 Wi-Fi, and this is Wi-Fi 7. And we got our bracket, our 2 antennas, and this guy. Now, I do need an M.2 screw, so I gotta find one. Now, this will have some cables. Now, we could have purchased just a standard PCIe Express Wi-Fi 7 card, but since I already have this and there's no sense spending extra money, I could put Wi-Fi 6 in it. I might have a 6E, but since this has the capability of doing this and I already have this, might as well utilize it. And then if this has a problem in the future, we can always resort to the card. And there we go. That's installed. I don't quite know what I'm going to do for cable management there, but we can clearly pick any slot. I think in case she wants a graphics card and we don't have to change things around, we will maybe go with the 3rd or 4th slot down here. Let's just go with the 4th slot. Now, what we can do is take these caps off, and these also have, this has a retainer nut and washer, so those will go on the outside. I do not have the appropriate nut driver for this, so we are tightening this down with a small pair of pliers. I'm happy with that. That's actually pretty solid. So now we can put our antennas on. All right, so you can take a look at this for yourself. That's what it's going to look like. Large antennas. I don't think that's going to have a problem because she's very, very close to our routers. So we have a mesh router system, and I think this is going to work perfectly fine. All right, so let's rock and roll. Let's turn this thing back on for kind of the permanent. We can see it does illuminate in the back of this, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Hopefully I hooked everything up correctly for the second time. LCD is coming on. We have these fans. Every fan is spinning. All the lights are on. Wonderful. I'll even tip it back for you so you can see. Now the camera sometimes doesn't pick up the true colors. It's hard to get the perfect lighting for what I'm actually seeing, but it looks pretty nice. So we're gonna look at the BIOS here again. We have current version is 3.09, and I went ahead and pulled up the other, and look at that, we have a lot of BIOS updates. So we're at 3.09. Let me start OBS and I'll show you. Okay, so you can see up here we have the Z790 LiveMixer 3.09. Right here we're at ASrock. You can see that is our motherboard for 12th, 13th, 14th gen CPUs. Come all the way down here, look at 3.09. This is, I never even flashed the BIOS. I thought I did, but I never did. So we have a ton of versions, and look at all the descriptions on what it has optimized and allowed for anything new. So luckily we have not had a problem as far as just installing the CPU. Now it is backwards compatible with the 13th and 12th gens, so our 12th gen is natively supported in this. So let's go ahead and grab this. We're going to download the latest BIOS. Okay, and that's downloaded. Let's go into our downloads. We can see, let me just get rid of all this stuff so it's less confusing for everyone and myself. We have to extract, because this is a zip folder, extract all. We're just going to extract it right back into the same folder. We can see it there. Okay, so this is what we want. We want to do Control-C on our keyboard, or a right-click and copy. That's the same thing. Now, I have my USB thumb drive that I put all my BIOSes on. So we are going to stick that in there. Let me get rid of these BIOSes and other stuff. And this is where we're going to put it. So Control-V on keyboard, or right-click and paste. Now we have the BIOS on this thumb drive. I'm going to put it in any USB port. It doesn't matter if it's a USB 2.0 or 3.0 or the 10 gigabits per second or 20 gigabits per second. 9 times out of 10. If it doesn't read it, just switch to a different, usually just switch it to a different USB port and you should be fine. But we're going to stick it right in the first available 2.0 port. It really doesn't matter. Not for this. And here we go. Down here in the right hand corner, once again, instant flash, click on it. And please suspend BitLocker, yakety yak. If you have BitLocker, you need to disable that. And we want to continue. And look at that, we're going right to 1901. Yes, let's update it, please. And after pressing enter, the system will automatically reboot. Please wait for a few seconds and the BIOS will update. The BIOS update will continue. There we go. The CPU just shut down and it's restarting into the BIOS configuration or update mode. So it's all normal. Give it time, walk away. This is where you do not want to remove power. You do not want to play with the computer, push any buttons. You don't want to even touch the keyboard. 9 times out of 10, you won't be able to anyway to disrupt it unless you pull the power. So at this point, you just walk away. But we are at 7%, and I'll just cut to the end here real quick. All right, so we're back into the BIOS. It only rebooted, it looked like, once. And we are currently now at 1901, which is exactly what we needed. And that's about it. The only other thing you can do usually is something like F10. Nope, it doesn't work on this one. Okay. So I was looking to load the optimized default settings. I don't quite know how to do it on here. Let's go to Advanced. Let's go to Exit. There we go. Load optimize defaults. I'll click yes. Then save the changes and exit. Now, I'm just going to allow it to go back into the BIOS, but now what it's time for is Windows 11. Now, I have 24H2 on here, so it's pretty much the latest, with the exception of a few updates in the past month or two. But now I'm also good to remove the USB drive for our BIOS update. Okay, so we're back in the BIOS. I'm just going to put this in. Now, you don't have to be in the BIOS to put this in for Windows, but you do have to get this if you are looking on how to get the Windows 11 media. I do have videos on that, so you can go ahead and check those out. This particular one you do want in the absolute fastest port that you have, and I'm just looking because it really doesn't tell me around here, but I have a 10 gigabits per second one. Looks like only 10 gigabits per second is my fastest, so we're going to stick it right in that one. Then what we're going to do is we are just going to pretend we could either shut the power completely off and turn it back on, or we could go through here and just do an exit. Save the changes and exit, or exit without saving, whatever you want to do. Now we should get into a Windows, and we'll go through all the prompts quickly. I may even skip over them because I do have videos on this. I don't want this video to be too much longer. English, English, next. Keyboard layout. And we want to install Windows. I agree. Do not have a product key right now. So right down here it says I do not have a product key. That's exactly what we want. And then we want 11 Pro. Need to accept. All right, so this is kind of a new thing. I don't know why it shows, like for instance, disk 2, we do not want any of those. But it does look like there was some sort of a partition or something going on. So we're going to delete. We're going to delete 0, unallocated space. Okay, it won't let me delete that. Let's just delete. Make sure that's deleted. There we go. Okay. And that's all we want is unallocated space 0. And that's what we're going to put it on, our 2 terabyte. It says 1.8 terabyte, but it's the same thing. And away we go, 10% in already. It's just copying over the files that are on the USB drive over to the NVMe that is on the computer. And then it'll go through the regular prompts whenever you get a new computer. You do all your normal setup stuff. I'm not going to show that, but then I'll get into Windows. We'll make sure we connect to the internet and start our updates, and then we'll wrap this video up. All right, so we just got online, well, not online, but we got into Windows here, and now we need to make sure we can establish an internet connection. We can pull out our USB for our Windows, and I'm just going to plug the Ethernet cable in right now. I'm not going to hook it up Wi-Fi yet. And look at that, boom, right away. So the next thing I want to do is verify anything in our device manager. I just want to see if there's anything missing, which there are: network controller, PCIe device, and some bus controller. So we may have to download the ASrock utility, but let's see if we can get all of it or any of it right from any of our Windows updates. That's going to be my first go-to. And since we did establish Ethernet connectivity, let's just check this. So we're going to go under Device Manager. And okay, so we still have the PCI device and SM bus controller. So in order to fix those, because if we go back to here, I'm just going to prove that there's no more updates. Hopefully. Okay, no more updates there. We go to the optional updates. There's 0 available. So what we need to do is I'm going to use this computer that we're on to download it. It will be just a little bit easier. Let me just make this screen a little bit bigger for myself. And Start without data. Confirm and continue. Continue without data. Start browsing. Okay, so let's go ASrock Z790 LiveMixer. This is what you need to type in if you're getting any of your BIOS updates, or if you want to do a BIOS update or check for them, anything like that. And we're going to go right down here to support, and we're going to go to downloads. Okay, so I think it may have to do with this INF driver. So let's just download this. Let's see what it does. It's not going to necessarily hurt too much here. Let's go to our downloads. Let's get rid of these. Let's do a right click. We're going to extract all. And this should just take a moment. Look at that, 574 items in that one folder. Crazy. All right, let's do a right click. Yeah, this chipset. I think that's what we want. And accept, install. Just a few more seconds here. Come on. There's a little bit left. Let's go. All right. So we're going to restart right now, and let's see if we made any progress on that. Let's go to our device manager. All right, that's what it was. And you saw it firsthand. It may be a little choppy in the video because I was trying to figure out what it was, and there was no sense in spending, I spent like 20-30 minutes just trying to figure out which one it was. I wasn't going to spend that kind of time on camera and just having you sit there and go through it all with me. But I eventually found it, and it took a little digging, but it's all set now. Now I got to install the IQ software, get that up to date, make sure whatever color she wants, get those up to date, put VLC player on it, and etc. Just a bunch of apps and stuff like that. And then we got to transfer some files over to here, and then her computer's all set. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope you enjoyed this white stuff build, is what I called it. White stuff. I hope she likes the name. She might not. And if she doesn't, I guess we're going to have to change it. But that's going to be our nickname. White stuff. So anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this little build with me. And we didn't do the peels, did we? So let's do the peels. And 3, 2... I got to move it for you. 3, 2, 1. Shh. There it is in all its glory. Looks great. I think she's going to really like it. So anyway, feel free to leave the comments down below and hit that thumbs up to keep that algorithm going. Even if it makes sense or not, just give me some love. And until next time, guys, take care.